Hey everybody, welcome back to Vedic Sage. I'm Dr. Dhaliwal, and today we're going to discuss the topic of indigestion. It's interesting to note that gastrointestinal symptoms are amongst the most common and widespread of health complaints amongst the general population. Indigestion or dyspepsia is considered upper abdominal pain or discomfort usually experienced after a meal and is commonly associated with bloating, abdominal distension, and even nausea and vomiting. The beauty of Ayurveda is that it has a very simple and practical approach to describing the digestive system. If we look upon the fire as being the metaphor for the gastrointestinal system, we can further appreciate the function of this digestive flame, which is to digest, absorb, and assimilate all nutrients. Of course, if the function of agni, the digestive flame, is impaired, this can be the very underlying cause of GI distress, such as indigestion. To understand this better, let's first take a look at the qualities of this digestive fire named agni. I think it deserves mentioning that these qualities were explained thousands of years ago by very wise individuals, and they were actually able to explain the environment within the stomach. For example, we often talk about the burning sensation within the stomach. Likewise, we know it's the hydrochloric acid that breaks down the food material into its basic units. So once again, these individuals were able to describe the environment within the gastrointestinal system and using fire, known as agni, as the metaphor. So the qualities of agni include hot, light, sharp, luminous, penetrating, and clear. Now that we have a better understanding of agni as the digestive fire, let's quickly discuss the common causes of impaired agni, therefore taking a look at the root causes of indigestion from an Ayurvedic perspective. So the common causes for indigestion include the obvious overeating. Likewise, drinking too much fluids, especially during a meal, is only going to dilute that concentrated hydrochloric acid, which is the fire element needed to break down food into its basic components. For example, carbs into glucose, proteins into amino acids, and fat into fatty acids. Likewise, irregular eating habits. For example, eating lunch at 12 o'clock one day, and then eating lunch at 2 o'clock the next day, and the following day after that is you're skipping a meal. This irregularity throws the variable factor into a system, and therefore the system no longer works in a systematic manner. It's interesting because in Ayurveda, it says the suppression of urges, for example, the need to go to the restroom, and suppressing this urge is thought to be one of the main causes for indigestion or gastrointestinal distress. And of course, any major disturbances in sleep or even emotional disturbances can affect the optimal function of digestion. So even though the above mentioned causes are very basic and simple, they are probably the very root cause of gastrointestinal disturbances. And often people go to see a specialist, for example, a gastroenterologist, for these very same conditions. And the unfortunate thing is that majority of patients often have no definitive diagnostic outcome or benefit from this investigative workup of endoscopies, barium swallows, blood work, biopsy, which implies that there's probably nothing wrong with the GI system, but instead something wrong with the behavior towards food, such as overeating, drinking too much liquids, suppression of urges, or having some type of disturbance within sleep, or even psychological or emotional disturbances. Therefore, the keep it simple approach to indigestion is to simply eat less, take in less fluids, especially during a meal. Don't dilute that hydrochloric acid with especially a cold drink, and we'll talk about this pretty soon. The cold factor impairs the qualities of this digestive flame known as agni. So try to take in less fluids with the meal and try to eat more regularly, whether it be the same time of the day on a day-to-day basis and almost the same quantity of food as well, just so that your system becomes more systematic and therefore the steps in the process of digestion become more regulated. And finally, eat in a more relaxed state. I know this is sometimes difficult in the fast-moving society, but try to eat in a more relaxed state of mind and therefore allow the mind-body to properly digest the foods that we're taking in. So as previously mentioned, the qualities of fire is thought to be hot, light, sharp, penetrating, luminous, and clear. Qualities which are similar to this flame or digestive fire will help promote optimal gastrointestinal function. Likewise, any qualities which oppose these qualities of agni, or the digestive fire, is thought to impair the gastrointestinal function and is thought to be the root cause of indigestion. Even the simple act of avoiding the quality of cold can make a significant difference. So let's take a closer look at the digestive system as food enters into the stomach. Now, actually, the process of digestion happens the moment the food enters into the mouth. And I should say that it happens the moment we think about the food and perceive the food with the senses. The way that the food looks, smells, tastes, all this affects how we digest the food, whether or not we enjoy the food. So the basic factors of the initial process of digestion within the stomach includes the production of hydrochloric acid, mucin, and gastric juices, along with the churning process of the stomach. Now let's take a look at what happens as food enters into the stomach. The gastrointestinal tract provides an amazing capacity of digestion. It's a system and a series of reactions involving hydrochloric acid, mucin or the digestive juices, along with the efficient gastric motility, which, when coordinated, allows us to properly convert the food into the building blocks which make up our bodily tissue, and at the same time provide vibrant energy needed to sustain life. Now, as the food enters into the stomach, the process of digestion aims to first break down the food into smaller and basic units, and that's done by the help of hydrochloric acid. And it's interesting to note that thousands of years ago, the science of Ayurveda used fire as a metaphor for the digestive capacity. Even today, we still have the same implications of acid burning and breaking down food into basic elements of carbs into glucose, protein into amino acids, and fat into fatty acids. In the same manner, in order to break down food into smaller molecules, there's a churning process which allows the mixing of hydrochloric acid, mucin, and the food contents. So at this point, this partially digested food material now leaves the stomach and begins to enter into the small intestine, beginning at the duodenum, where bile is going to come from the gallbladder, and the pancreatic juices help to further break down this food. Now, what we're about to say here is very important. The process of digestion, absorption, and assimilation takes nearly 4 to 6 hours to complete. And this process, or system rather, is a coordinated series of reactions with the functional activity of enzymes staged at the right time and the right place. So what happens when we add additional food into the stomach as the previously digested food is still in the process of entering into the small intestines? It screws up and messes up the whole process of digestion, and it's pretty much equivalent of throwing a wrench in the system of gears. As new food enters into the stomach and mixes with the previously digested food material, this leads to a mixture of poorly digested, or rather undigested, food contents, and creates the possibility of food material that's not even close to being properly digested by the hydrochloric acid to enter into the small intestines, and therefore leads to indigestion. Even worse is that this leads to the possibilities of poorly digested food to ferment, and through the process of putrefaction within the intestines can lead to further GI or gastrointestinal disturbances. This, according to Ayurveda, is the root cause of many diseases, if not all diseases, according to the Ayurvedic perspective. Therefore, the main point is to give the body adequate time to properly digest the food that has already been consumed, and eating frequent meals is often the very cause of indigestion, as we've explained here above. So now what we're going to talk about is the 4 enzymatic states of digestion, or the 4 main classifications of this digestive fire known as agni from an Ayurvedic perspective. So very quickly, we can see that the 4 main classifications of agni, or the digestive flame, are sama agni, which is thought to be optimal GI function or digestion; vishama agni, which is the irregular or erratic digestion, and we'll talk about this in greater detail; tikshana agni, which is sharp, penetrating digestion with hypermetabolism. And finally, manda agni, which is thought to be dull, sluggish, and impaired digestion, and also oftenly associated with hypometabolism. So we'll take a look at these classifications of agni in greater detail. From the classical Ayurvedic literature, there's three main pathological states of this digestive enzymatic function. One being Vishama agni, which is thought to be the irregular, erratic digestion. In this abnormal state of digestive function, the symptoms are often very unpredictable. Sometimes the food is well digested, whereas at other times, even the smallest quantity of light food is not well tolerated. This enzymatic state of digestion is thought to be influenced by Vata dosha. Vata is composed of ether and air elements and can be thought of as wind-like movement. Therefore, we can think of this digestive flame as flickering within the wind. At times, the wind nearly blows the flame out, resulting in impaired digestion, and that's when you'll start to have that gastrointestinal disturbances. And other times the wind is mild, and therefore the digestive flame is steady, resulting in adequate or optimal digestion. Other associated findings with Vishama agni, that's commonly associated with Vata dosha, is gas, bloating, abdominal distension. They have dry skin, dry mouth, and often suffer from insomnia, lower back pain, arthritis, and from a psychological standpoint, often have insecurity or anxiety. So herbs that one may want to consider for this type of variable digestion to help improve that digestive flame includes ginger root, dill, fennel, trikatu, which is a combination of black pepper, pipali, and ginger. And you may want to consider chitrak or hingvastak churna. The second pathological digestive flame is thought to be tikshana agni and is considered to be sharp and penetrating digestion. In this abnormal state of digestion, the individual often has a good appetite. However, the food that is eaten is not adequately assimilated within the body. This enzymatic state of digestion is thought to be more influenced by Pitta dosha, and Pitta is composed primarily of the fire and water elements, thereby increasing that intensity of that digestive flame. The fire is high, but these individuals develop intense hunger and often feel hypoglycemic if they do not eat in time. So we can think of this digestive flame as being intense, very intense and brilliant, but without the sustenance to endure the processes of digestion, or rather assimilation of the nutrients. Other associated findings with tikshana agni, or this intense flame, is hyperacidity, heartburn, nausea, vomiting, often having loose stools. They can develop fever, rash, and hives during the second stage of digestion. And from an emotional standpoint, these people are more irritable and can be or prone to aggressiveness. Herbs to consider for managing this intense flame of tikshana agni include ginger, fennel, shatavari, guduchi, and even cooling teas of sandalwood. And finally, the last pathological digestive flame that we'll take a look at is considered manda agni, which is thought to be the slow, dull, and sluggish digestion. And in this state of digestion, the individual finds that even the simple meals are difficult to digest and therefore have an uneasy or heavy feeling in the stomach. This enzymatic state of digestion is thought to be influenced by kapha dosha. Kapha is predominantly composed of both water and earth, and because of these elements, these individuals often have poor appetite, sluggish digestion, with a slow metabolism. Other factors associated with manda agni is that these individuals are often prone to congestion, cough, excessive salivation. They feel bloated, they are lethargic, often having an underactive thyroid function, and because of that they can be overweight, prone to obesity. These individuals often have excessive sleepiness, lymphatic congestion, and may have hypertension. Herbs to consider for this type of indigestion that's associated with manda agni, or the impaired, diminished digestive flame, includes herbs such as ginger, black pepper, garlic, cinnamon, trikatu, and vacha. Okay guys, thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful, and I will continue making videos on how to maintain health from a natural perspective, focusing on ancient concepts of Ayurveda. Okay guys, thanks again for watching, and take care.